Do you live and breathe soccer? Looking for real, unfiltered takes on the world's biggest sport? Welcome to Soccer Unfiltered, the show where we break down the beautiful game without holding back. With your host, Carl Phillip, aka Coach, Dr. Joe, Coach Carlos, and Yonel. We tackle it all, from the rise of youth soccer in the US, to the biggest European leagues, to hot takes on global football news. Our crew has the insights and opinions that no one else dares to share. It's not just a podcast, it's the place where real soccer fans come together. Join us as we take you inside the game, unfiltered and unapologetic. This is Soccer Unfiltered, where the real soccer talk happens.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Soccer Unfiltered. Again, this is a show like everything is on script. You know, we're just having fun talking about soccer and talking about the biggest event going on in the world of soccer. So tonight I have some guests with me tonight. So I'm gonna start first with Martin. Martin is a great friend of mine. We've known each other for 20 years. He's a big soccer fan, big Argentina fan, currently in Canada, Montreal. So welcome, Martin. This is your second episode, right?
Yes, sir.
And then we got a heavy hitter tonight. This is Billy Corshit. Billy is he's a father, a businessman, a husband. Been doing a lot of great things in the Fort Wayne community. And a little bit background, I used to coach Billy a long time ago. So it's happy to have him here tonight. So welcome, Billy. How you doing?
Hey, good. Appreciate you having me on. This is great. I'm
so we're gonna have so the main topics we're gonna discuss tonight. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the MLS playoffs. Also, we're gonna talk a little bit about soccer as a business with the FIFA World Club coming next year. Also, the importance of coaching and the development of the new generation. So let's start first with last night. What happened last night in Miami? Big upset in the playoffs of Miami. For some of you who know, Miami had a historic run. They have like 74 points. I mean, they were favored to win the MLS playoff. So, I mean, they went from one of the worst teams last year to one of the best teams this year. So, and they started the playoff with Atlanta. They won the first game, lost the second game, and so they have it was a best of three. So they had a game last night. They lost last night, so they out. So I'm gonna start with you, Martin. So what did you think of that loss, man?
I'll be honest with you. I did not watch the game. I didn't watch the game. I only got the result, and I read about basically, the comment, right? So, what can I say about that? I don't know. Honestly, guys, I seriously do not know exactly what happened. They were the heavy favorite, obviously. Apparently, based on what I read, Atlanta had basically a good game plan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty much, they didn't go toe to toe with Miami, right? Basically, I think they stay at the back, play defense, and basically went on the counter attack. I'm not sure, right? That's based on what I read, but am I surprised? A little bit. But listen, at least you have to look at the positive. They have basically a very good run. They finished first. They won the MLS Cup. They're going to the to the FIFA World Cup of club. So there's always next year. That's all I can say for now. There's always next year.
So Gooseman, the Atlanta keeper, he had a great series. And this dude was on fire, making saves left and right. I mean, he was great. And you know, Miami. It's so funny that Atlanta has been Miami Achilles heels all season. They never be able to beat Atlanta. I mean, I think the two games they lost, or one game they lost during the regular season, was against Atlanta. They lost one game and then they tied the other game. So Atlanta got their numbers. It was a bad matchup for them, and Atlanta took advantage of it. So Billy, let's So, did you have a chance to watch the game last night?
Yeah, man. So here's my thing on it. It's like you said, they've had their number, and when we used to play, we were a physical team when you were my coach, and it makes a difference. You'd play some of those teams that are strategic and everything like that, but when you got a physical goalie like that, and you have who's that? Is it Carlos?
Yep, let's call us.
Mr. Carlos, coach. I love it.
Hey.
I love it. Both coaches on here.
Hey, what's
Carlos,
up, guys?
How you doing?
Is that Billy?
Yeah, man.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm just over here at futsal. Sorry.
Love it. We were
trying to get these hooked up here.
Yeah, talking about Messi and blowing it, I guess, right? But but yeah, that goalkeeper, this always got your number. I played forward, so it's like one of those things. Sometimes you just can't score on that goalie. So it's a tough loss. I was hoping to maybe buy a ticket to see Messi.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're right. It was a tough loss, and then sometimes, the one thing about soccer is such a cruel sport, right? So sometimes the best team doesn't, the best team, they don't win all the time. So, but in that particular situation it's a series. Usually, you always think that doing a 3-game series, always the best team won. I thought it was a bad matchup for Miami. Going forward, I think Atlanta they had a great game plan, and the great thing was with Atlanta was they did not panic even though they lost the first game. They took care of home, which what they did by winning Atlanta, and then they went to Miami with no fear. And it's always the scary part about playing a team with no fear, because at the end of the day, if they lost, it's expected, right? So they have no pressure on them. So Miami is supposed to win the game. So they just play very relaxed. They were, like I said, the keeper came big during the game. But I think the part that is interesting to me now that Messi is out, like all of a sudden Miami becomes a global team. Everybody in the world is watching Miami now. So now that Messi is out, so from a business standpoint, do we feel like the MLS playoff, nobody's going to pay attention anymore to the MLS playoff? So let me start with you, Billy.
Yeah, man. So I think about that sometimes. Like you watch those Miami games, wherever they go, they're selling out, right? And I'd be interested to follow it on like a StubHub or something like that, and be like, are the tickets selling? And who's going? Like, what's the numbers? You look at the Atlanta game. That held how many people? Like, wasn't it like 50-some thousand or something like that? They had people there.
Yeah.
So this next game, what's going to happen? I think that the momentum's in a better spot than it's ever been, of course, right? But Messi brings that little something.
So let's do a little transition from a soccer. Now, obviously, soccer has been big, from a business standpoint, throughout the world. Now now it's become a bigger business now in the US with Messi here with all the marketing. So so let's go back to it. Is soccer has become too big of a business now, or it's just like right now we're getting away from the game with the flair, especially from people like me. I grew up in the 80s with the Maradona and the Brazil of the world, where there's a lot of flair in the game. Now it feel like soccer has become like a big corporation. So let me start with you, Martin. So do you feel like soccer is more like a business game now than before, instead of
Before, maybe. Why I'm saying that is because if you look right now, there's a lot of tournaments they're trying to. As an example, next year we have the FIFA World Club Tournament. So right now, yes, they're focusing a lot on the business side of it. They're trying to bring more money, but at the same time, I don't think it's a good thing for the players because players are getting injured a lot more, obviously. And then if we're looking at it in the long run, my question is it going to dilute the product at some point? Because when you play so many games, you do not have enough time to rest. You're getting basically injured. When you're getting injured, in order for teams to be able to compete, they're gonna have to, I mean, loaded their roster, have a lot of players. Now, in terms of business, it's always been a business, right? I mean, if you take soccer, you take the NBA, I mean, NFL, whatever other team league. I mean, the purpose of it is to bring money and to basically present that the game to a larger audience, right? But my fear is I don't want. I mean, with the amount of games people are playing and the amount of money they're trying to basically bring in, it's gonna dilute the game at some point. That's where I'm just I'm kind of scared in the long run, though.
Coach, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I agree with Martin in that it's always been a business, but I mean we're living in a different time now. I mean, you have between social media, between the development of soccer in this country, you know, from the youth academies, you know, to the MLS. I mean, you have to remember. I mean, think about when in 1986 when we watched the World Cup. I mean, Billy wasn't even born yet, but when we watched the World Cup. I mean, we you know we had you know we had the opportunity to watch it on some TV channels. We didn't have a the MLS yet developed in this country. It started in off the backbone of the 1994 World Cup in the United States here, and so I think it's just different. It's become a lot more commercialized, especially with the endorsements and everything, and really what I guess what I'm witnessing, and I don't know what you guys think, but I just feel like it's finally it's actually starting to emulate a little bit more closely to what we've seen in American football and basketball and baseball, with the TV rights and all that other stuff. So, I think it's I don't know if we should say it's necessarily more of a business because like Martin said, I mean, it's always been a business, but it's just it's a different type of business. I think there's a lot more money at stake now, a lot more money that's transacting in terms of let's just say when you talk about anything that has more popularity, then you're going to have merchandising and you're going to have a lot of other things, TV and so forth. So I think it's just different, and I mean, and hopefully it's a I think personally it's a good it's a good thing because we've said for a long time that the culture in this country has to change when it comes to the passion for football and what we've seen in other countries. And I feel like we're slowly moving that direction. But on Saturday, whenever you're able to click on NBC and if and see a Premier League match, I think that's awesome because we weren't able to see that back when we were younger. So I think it's heading in the right direction. We just have to be careful. Because anytime there's a lot more money that's involved in anything, sometimes it can get a little bit clouded. And I think that's maybe what you were alluding to a little bit, is that sometimes, with some of these youth, I mean, you're talking about youth players that in these academies, other places in the world that are now getting identified earlier, and they're signing pro contracts as soon as they're able. And I think that's some of what is sort of counterproductive or counteracting what some of these countries have really enjoyed in the past, and that is just playing street soccer because of the purity of it. And by the time that they were ready to move on to the next stages of their professional career, they had coaches, they had people that were looking out for that and really taking into consideration their development. So that's my take on it.
So we got Coach Matt. Welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit late.
Oh, is Matt on here?
Yeah, it's Matt on here. Now, hey, this perfect introduction to him. So, hey, we got Coach Matt. We have the FIFA World Cup is gonna be World Club next year. So as a coach and as a fan of the game, so what's your take on that? On having all these clubs, all those big clubs, come into the United States to play like a World Cup?
I love it. Just more. We don't get to see this as much. We're here in the States, and I know it's awesome for the kids to see it live. So yeah, it's exciting.
Billy, what's your take on that?
Yeah, man. So I think about it in a lot of different ways because, we all played soccer here, right? And there's people that never have played soccer or just are introduced to soccer. And I think that's the market that's untapped. I mean, you go to a baseball game, you go to a football game. For me, I never played baseball, but I enjoy watching it because of the environment, because it's such a thing, right? So I think with this transition to be, global coming to the States, you're going to have teams like from European, like Premier League, and it's going to be one of those things they're going to play in the States, and then maybe you might get some followers, and people are going to watch the Premier League more, and then from Premier League, maybe people watch MLS. I think it's going to be a good collaboration.
Yeah. So, Martin, you kind of alluded that
Hey, Coach.
earlier. It's the number of games that people
Hey,
are
Coach.
playing. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, yeah. Just to kind of, I want to kind of talk a little bit on the back of what I was talking about. I had mentioned that when the World Cup was here in the United States in 1994, they used that as an opportunity to inaugurate the MLS the following year. So, no, I'm doing sorry. So in 1994, they used that to help launch the MLS, right? With the World Cup final between Italy and Brazil that year was in the Rose Bowl. We're talking over 100,000 people, 102,000 people, something like that. What that did, and I believe that from a marketing standpoint, to get people enthusiastic or to get them motivated or energized about the MLS during that time period was genius. And I feel like where we're at today compared to where we were in 1994 in this country, stemming from the youth, through the MLS. I mean, we have legitimate, soccer specific stadiums in this country today. We've got again, like I said, we've got social media, we've got people that are these platforms that are allowing people to follow these teams, follow these players. I feel like the World Cup is going to have a lot of excitement. Not that there wasn't excitement before, but now with people being so, and kind of going back to what Billy was saying too. I mean, you're going to have sort of not just people like us that love this game, that played the game, but people that don't necessarily love or know the game too well and aren't that aware of it, and they're going to be watching it. And I know that in the last World Cup, I mean, I was talking to guys that don't know anything about the game, and they and they saw me with the Argentina jersey, and they knew Messi, and they knew and then they're and so I think what we're going to find is I think there's going to be commercials. People get excited about the commercials. For Super Bowl, I think you're going to have that similar feeling here in the United States during that time period, and I think that we should be really proud of that.
So I'm going to ask Martin a question. So obviously the World Cup it's in 2026, and the FIFA World Cup is the year before that. And I know you kind of alluded with the number of games that the players are playing, and we got a lot of injuries. Do you feel like the FIFA World Club, the only reason they have it in the United States is to get the excitement for the World Cup, just like Coach Carlos mentioned?
Obviously, yeah, for sure, 100%. That's the idea behind it. Um, I guess they're testing the water right now. I mean, obviously, with that World Cup, after the World Cup, if there's some adjustment needed to be done, they will do the adjustment, obviously, for the FIFA World Cup in 2026. But again, um, here's, I mean, what I'm thinking. I mean, it's a good thing. A lot of excitement. But let's say if I'm just saying stuff here, like let's say you have a game where it's Real Madrid against Barcelona, and the key players, I mean, Lewandowski, Vinicius, for whatever reason they're not playing. That could happen. That could happen. So how do you? I mean, you're putting a lot of money into it. You're basically advertising it. Hopefully, all those players will be there to basically play. And then when they're playing, hopefully the level will be there too. Because most of the time, let's be honest, right? That's what I believe. When you play for Real Madrid, most important things is La Liga and the Champions League. Now, is it the FIFA World Cup? Are they going to put, I mean, their energy? I mean, are they going to play their all, right, for that FIFA World Cup? That's my question. I mean, that's where I am here, right? So again, to answer your question, you're totally right. They're basically doing it here. I mean, as a they're trying to basically do it. And for next year, if there's some adjustment we needed to be done, they will be able to do those adjustments. At the same time, they're trying to basically introduce it to a larger audience. But for me, it's mainly the players. I mean, are the players going to be committed to play that game? I mean, that's funny. Especially when the World Cup, the World Cup. Well, the real World Cup is a year after, right? So that's my question.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, Coach Matt, let me ask you a question. I'm going to bring you in this conversation. So, from a coaching standpoint, like you said, right now those guys are playing World Cup qualifier. So they, next year they're going to be playing the La Liga, the leagues and the Champions League. And then after that, usually the year before the World Cup, you always want to have your summer off, right? Now for this summer, they're gonna be playing the World Club, So from a coaching standpoint, how can you keep your guys motivated? Kind of mentioned to what Martin was saying. Are you saying that I'm gonna go and give my second players the opportunity to play, or are you gonna go in to try to win it?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's a lot. These guys are going through a lot. These kids, and actually now kids. So I would say from a coaching standpoint, I would probably put some of my second strings, kind of give those guys, my stars, the rest, kind of see what I have. Unfortunately, then you're talking about the crowd and people come in and stuff like that. It might be a little bit tricky, but I don't know. I feel like it's a lot for these guys right now. So, good question. But that's what I would do as a coach. I would definitely probably give some of my backup some time.
Hey, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So I talked to you about this, Carl and Carlos. I teamed up with Catapult, the wearables, and I started a little business out of it, right? And we put them on high school athletes because usually college athletes are the only one can afford it. And constantly people are talking about this player load. What can they handle? And to me, it's changing because, back when we'd played injured. You just do it. We didn't have therapists. We didn't have people checking on us. You know what I mean? You just played. But I feel like now it's strategic. It's like, hey, how can we manage our players for when we need them? And I think it's interesting because this whole concept of you're throwing more and more at them. So yeah, what is the best utilization of your players and your team, right?
Right. You guys are absolutely right. And like I said, that's where we kind of talk about the business. Sometimes you feel like the business, people just try to make so much money, it take precedent over the player's health, right? So because at the end of the day, the product are the players. If they're not playing, nobody cares, right? But I think that with all the business, all the commercialization coming with soccer now, and having a player like Messi playing in the U.S. So, kind of go back to my next question. My Usually the team that are part of the FIFA World Club or the team that actually won the leagues, and Miami got included in the FIFA World Club just for winning the season. So, do you think that was the Messi effect on that? So let me start with you, Billy.
Oh, it totally is. Like, I mean, you talking about business, like they're doing it for the money too, right? They're gonna bring in the most fans. It's like Notre Dame football. They can be bad, but they're still filling the stadiums and bringing in the dollars. They get the contract for all the TV. Messi has Apple TV now. Like, that's huge. I mean, it's becoming one of the biggest streaming services, and he's plastered all over it. You go and watch your random fun show at night. He's first. So I think it's great.
All right, so we gotta take a little break because this episode was brought to us by Excalibur Shops. So right now with the holiday season coming up, so it's the best way to do some shopping. So let's get Excalibur. All right, so let's go to our next topic. I got coaches in the house. I got two great coaches in the house. All right, so right now, Real Madrid went through a little bad time. Obviously they lost to Barcelona, and then they went in, and then the following week they lost to AC Milan in the Champions League. Obviously everybody's talking about Ancelotti. Is he gonna get fired? All right. So let me turn into you guys, coaches. So as a coach, when your team is going to some bad moment, so how do you get the team motivated and then to go to that spell? So let me start with you, Coach Carlos.
Yeah, so I think what we're witnessing with Madrid, and I'm not going to say it's Ancelotti because I mean I think sometimes the fans think that you just put the players out there and miraculously you're going to have tons of goals, tons of excitement. You're going to have championships and everything. But we all know that the reality is that sometimes, from a coaching standpoint, he's still he's still trying to move the pieces. I mean, just because Mbappe was good at, in one position for France, one position for PSG doesn't necessarily he's going to fit in that same formula the same exact way when you have these other players that are also very are great players in Vinny Jr. and also Rodrigo and Jude Bellingham. So I think that from a coaching standpoint, I mean Ancelotti has a job to do. He's going to continue to learn, get to know his players, who they are, what their capabilities are, what their deficits are. He's going to try to do what he can to improve it. He's going to continue to move the pieces, and he's been around long enough, and he's a great coach. And I think I think that the Madrid that we see today is not going to be the same Madrid that we're going to see next year. I think that from the fans' perspective, they got to give him some grace. They got to give him a little bit of time. And I know sometimes, especially in Spain, it can be very unforgiving because they want, especially at Madrid, you have to win. You have to win, and Champions League, you have to win. So I'm hoping they give him some grace. I love Ancelotti. I think Ancelotti is a good coach, and he's proven for a while now that he's able to win trophies and win championships, and sometimes it takes time. I mean, we just can't expect that this is going to happen overnight. It takes a lot of evaluation. It takes a lot of analysis, game training. We got to give him a little bit of time. So that's my take on it. I think that Ancelotti is also going to find out who he probably has to let go of as well. But I think that it would be irrational of them to let him go just because they've had one of the worst starts that they've had in a while. I mean, come on. I mean, he's got some big names, and that's not easy. Big names, a lot of talent, big egos. He's got to manage that, and I think he's going to be fine.
So historically, Madrid is really bad at that. So as a matter of fact, Ancelotti got fired after winning La Decima for Real Madrid. So it's not uncommon for people to, after a couple of bad games, they're calling for your head. But we shall see and see what's going to happen. So, Coach Matt, you've been part of teams that have a lot of talents, and also you coach a lot of teams with a lot of talents and egos. So, from a coaching standpoint, how do you get all these talents and all these egos on the same page to perform at the level you want them to perform?
Well, I think it just has to be your culture. You got to set the standards, and regardless, I think it's all about all about that healthy environment. I know all the teams I've had. I mean, I'm talking youth teams, not pro teams, but I think if it's all about the team, I think then it's not throwing back on one or two players. I just continue to stress about the healthy environment and how important it is to grow. And you're going to have those ups and downs. I think any good team knows that there's going to be a time where you're going to go through some rough spells, and those are the times where you really got to come together. It's tricky. You get all this talent together. You're trying to get playing time. All these egos and all that stuff. But I think if you set the tone early on and your standards are high, you look at some of these really, really good programs and really, really good coaches, it's all about their standards and their expectations and that healthy environment. And sometimes they have so much called down years, but they're going to always have those up and down years. So that's kind of my take on it. Just keeping that environment healthy and stressing the character and integrity on all those things, because that's what really matters, I think, more than anything. And then they'll prevail as time goes on. So that's my take.
That's good. So Billy, remember when you play, and right now, as a businessman, you're still part of a team. So, and then obviously, you're a coach, for your team, or you play for somebody as well too. So how was the importance of a good coaching in the success of your teams?
Of course, right. So I think of it, and it's funny because my son said this to me the other day, and I don't know where he got it, what it was, but he said, for some reason, he goes, confidence over winning. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty powerful, little man. But I thought about it because you have a lot of personalities on your team, no matter what. And if you go through a slump, if you don't get a deal, you don't get a goal that game, it actually has a lingering effect, right, on your confidence. And I remember playing, we'd go without a goal, and the whole team morale is kind of down, right? And so you got to take drastic measures to get that confidence back. And that way your team, you may lose a few games getting that confidence back, but you got to find a way, no matter what, don't even think about the outcome. Think about how we can be as a team better.
It's great. Martin, one thing I would say is, Pep Guardiola, he has the blessing and also the curse for soccer. So many teams, with what he did with Barcelona, what he's currently doing at Manchester City, everybody think that, all right, they can build a team like that, just like with Pep, and I feel like for me, in my opinion, with Pep, I feel like the soccer is losing the flair. Like I feel like everything is just like you just put a strategy together and then you have to execute. Like I said earlier, I grew up in the '80s when I saw Diego play, I saw Zidane play, and the list goes on and on. Del Piero and all those guys. And one thing that they make us fall in love for the game is they play the game with a lot of flair. So now, do you feel like too much coaching is also hurting the product of the game? So what's your take on that, Martin?
Too much coaching. I would say no. I'm looking at Pep Guardiola. He's basically coaching all the time. The guy basically barely sit down, and his team is winning. So I mean, it for me, it will depends of the coach. And as long as someone basically did say that it's a question of culture. Um, if you have a vision, an idea, and you put the right players around that, and you basically bring them into that culture, and they are willing to be coachable, and you as a coach you're flexible. Me, if you keep coaching all the time, like I said, I'm going back to Pep Guardiola. I can say the same thing for Diego Simeone. Those coach, they're always, if you're watching a game like an Atletico Madrid game, or you're watching basically Manchester City game, they're always coaching. There's always basically talking at the sideline, and as long as the results are there, who am I to say the contrary? You know what I mean? So again, it's everybody have their own style. And Ancelotti is from what I saw from him, he coached, but not as much as the other. It's pretty very quiet on the sideline, and he's basically he's succeeding. So again, I don't really have a definite answer on that. Like I said, it depends of the person. Is there too much coaching? I don't think so. As long as you're getting the result at the end of the day, that's how I see it.
So and then I'm gonna ask the group that question. So when you're looking at Messi, the way he plays, like he's so free the way he plays. And then you looking at the players now when it's more like robotic. Those guys come and play and do what they have to do. They run, they play, they run, they make passes, but you feel like the game is losing a little bit of flair. So do you think that if Messi was starting, and it kind of go back to my next topic, which is developing the next generation, do you feel like if Messi started his career right now in this current state of soccer, would he still be Messi? And whoever want to jump first, go ahead.
I think I'm gonna start. I think so. Players like Messi are basically players like you get it once in a generation, right? So I'm gonna go back to the Messiah at Barcelona. They put in a structure, but even when they put a player in a structure, some player will basically they will outshine everybody else because they have something in them, right? So I don't know things like that. I don't think you can basically teach certain things to players. I'm looking at Ronaldinho. I'm looking at Zidane. I'm looking at Messi. They have it. I don't know how they develop that, but they have it. So when they have it, you just let the player be himself at some point. So my point is this: regardless if you basically it developed it in the '90s, in the 2000s, even right now, I think if Messi was young, was still 16, 17 years old, coming from the Messiah, it would have been Messi, pretty much.
So let me ask you guys that question because right, you guys were players, and then now you guys are parents now, and then you guys are coaches. So do you see a big change from the time that you guys were playing, now that with the new generation of parents, the crazy parents, and the kids, what you guys are seeing right now, as parents and also as coaches, as far as the next generation of soccer players?
I'll jump in real quick because I'll kind of piggyback on what Martin was saying. It's like Messi, Kobe, they all have that mindset that like something switched in them at a young age and was like, hey, I got to do what I got to do. Like for Messi, his size was a thing, you know what I mean? And he had to overcome how to be the best version of himself. And I think that like nowadays, these kids, it's going to be tough because you are tiptoeing around a lot of things, but you also got to teach them grit. You know what I mean? Still, like that's the biggest thing. As parents, they're probably not going to get that at school. So you got to teach it to them yourself, kind of. Like I always tell people, I'm like, I like to have my kids practice with me 5 extra minutes every day. Say they go to practice for an hour, whatever. 5 minutes we'll get home. It's our time to do our thing. And I think that you got to, as parents, we're gonna have to work a little harder.
I agree.
I'll jump in.
Yep.
I think just based on me as a player growing up versus watching my own personal kids and just coaching, I think the biggest thing I see is the pressure that these kids have versus when I was growing up. I think the pressure from parents, from coaches is just crazy. I mean, these parents think these guys are going to be the next great thing. And unfortunately, there's just so many kids out there. And I'm not saying you can't have dreams and aspirations, all those things, but I think a lot of parents are taking the fun out of the game. And if they don't get to a certain level, whatever that level is, then they're going to be, not successful in their eyes. So I think when you talk about flair and you talk about all those things you talked about earlier, I think with that pressure, these kids aren't able to be themselves. So if you're not able to be yourself because mom or dad is watching you and, you got all this pressure, then it's not going to be good. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing. And, being robotic, as a coach, I mean, I'm very disciplined in certain aspects of how I want the teams to play. But, when they get the ball to a certain area of the field and certain aspects of the field, that's where that flair and that creativity comes. And so I feel like if parents could just be more, sit back and watch, I think you're going to see a lot more flair, a lot more creativity, and these kids being a lot more themselves. So that's what I look at. And I think that it's just going to continue to get worse because I feel like, all this individual training and all the expenses. So when you have expenses and individual training and all this extra stuff, that comes with pressure. So that's my take. I just think it's going to continue to get worse. So unfortunately.
No, this is great. I mean, you nail it. It's the pressure, it's funny now. Everything is on social media. I mean, I remember when I used to play, you know, people dribble me all the time. It's part of the game. Now, if you get beat, you can go viral. And that can play a psyche on those guys' kids. Even in basketball, people say, "Man, have you ever been crossed before?" I was like, "Yeah, you get crossed. Everybody get crossed. Everybody get magged. Everybody get nutmegged. It's part of the game." But I think that you're right. You're absolutely right. I think the pressure, and it kind of goes back to what we were discussing before, the business aspect of it, right? People are spending so much money so they can get the best product, right? You got parents are spending like crazy money because they want their kids to be the next guy, the next one, right? And sometimes and then you get a lot of burnouts. So those kids at a young age, they travel all the time. They go to different places to travel just to get the exposure. You absolutely right. I think that the pressure from the parents, from the coaches, and then also coaches also too. A lot of time their job depends on whether they win, they lose, right? So they put all that pressure on the teams so they can win. So also they can keep their jobs. So Coach Carlos, you over here struggling with your camera. You all over the place. So what's as a coach, is he still here? Is he still not here? I don't know. It looks like he's frozen. So Matt, so now are you with us, Coach Carlos?
I am now. Sorry, I was on the other side of the courts and I was having some technical difficulties. So sorry
Okay.
about that,
All right.
guys. Yeah.
So next question is for you. I mean, obviously we're talking about developing the next generation. So what are the things for you
Yes.
are key right now for, from parents, also from coaches to understand the things that needs to happen so we can get the next generation ready, as progress has become a bigger sport, soccer become a bigger sport in the U.S.
All right. So, I mean, quite honestly, I think that
That's a loaded question, huh?
that is a loaded question. I don't know how much time we have on this podcast, but I'm going to try to just tell you we need to try to figure out a way to eliminate the pay to play model. And I understand. I mean, I've been coaching travel for over 20 years. Matt and I, started a long time ago coaching, and I understand that it was necessary, and I think that it's done a lot of good for the development of the youth in soccer, but it's gotten so much to a point where it's becoming more money, and the parents, unfortunately, once that transaction is made, they are the customer, and when they're and like any good customer, they expect a product, they expect a service. And when things don't meet their expectations, they feel that they have the right to demand certain things. I believe that I know Matt was talking about the pressure that these kids are under. Unfortunately, these coaches are under an immense amount of pressure as well. And they've got to win games. They've got to win trophies. That's the problem. These kids are 10, these little kids, 8, 9, 10 years old. They don't need to win any trophies. And what I mean is that the main objective is that they should be able to go out there, they should be able to play and have fun and be free and to express themselves. You want to see our kids become more creative, give them the opportunity to do that. I mean, the kids these days, I think they would, unfortunately, they don't do what we used to do, where we would go to the streets or to the parks or to different places and just play with our friends. But I can tell you that for me, when my friends and I would have pickup games, and we had pickup games all the time, it was so much fun because we didn't have anybody putting us in positions. We didn't have anybody telling us, that we needed to do this or needed to do that. And that is where I saw probably some of the most creativity that I've ever seen. And we figured it out. We assigned who was going to be the goalie, who was going to be the backs, who was going to be the midfields, who was going to be the forward. We circulated kids through. We didn't have bibs. Some were skins. Some had shirts. We got a couple of rocks. They were the goals. We got a couple of sticks. We took a couple of backpacks or something, whatever we could find, and we just created the game, and that was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I think that if this is the model that we have right now, then we have to help the parents understand first and foremost. Yes, you're paying a lot of money. We get it. We understand, but you're paying money to us. To the coaches, to the club, to the program, and you have to trust that we're going to do what is the best for your kids' development. And just because the kid is on a team and they don't win all these trophies, or they don't win all these tournaments, or they don't win all these games, then I guess the example that they've set is that we'll just go across town and we'll go to the other club. And then they are on another team that doesn't win all these games or all these tournaments. We just go to the other town and we'll just do it there. And these kids are constantly bouncing around and never getting a chance to just troubleshoot and figure out a way to work through things, because the environment is being changed for them. And we all know as professionals in our own areas of work, that the environment's not always going to change for us. So we have to adapt. We have to be able to adapt. We have to be able to manage our emotions. We have to be able to manage our work life, our personal life. We have to be able to manage that, and it starts when they're young. I mean, sports. Again, I've said before, sports can expose the best in us, and it can expose the worst in us. We have to do a better job of trying to get sports, the game that we love, to expose the best in the kids, hopefully in the parents. But I think that if we change the model, where kids can eventually, like they do in Europe and South America, if they're good enough to play in a team, they don't have to pay. That's going to take a lot of sponsorships. It's going to take a lot of the development of MLS. I know we have these MLS Next teams all over, but anybody can buy into that, and you're still having to pay 7-8 grand. But if you have a true academy that's connected to an MLS team, like they have with Man City, you make the academy team. Those kids don't pay for nothing. They don't pay for kits. They don't pay for training. They don't pay for the facilities. They get all of that for free, but they earned it. And now it's up to them to be able to, keep earning it year after year. Martin talked about La Masia. I mean, I'm a huge, proponent of La Masia. I feel like, look at what Barcelona's doing right now. Look at most of those kids. A lot of those young kids that are playing are from La Masia. And, once you get to that point, they think accept only so many kids each year. And you have to be the best of the best. And once you make it, you are immersed in that culture all the time, both from an academic standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a performance standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint. I mean, the complete broad spectrum. And so I don't know. And we wonder why those kids that are growing up in those academies they are so mature, and their mental toughness is crazy, because they know what it takes to continue to work towards a goal. And I feel like the kids here in the United States, we're so entitled that as soon as we make the academy team, or we make an MLS Next team, these guys think that they've arrived. And it's like, dude, if you got to keep working, and be humble, and be a good person, and be honest, and all those things that they learn in those environments, it could be so beneficial for them, going forward in life. But these parents have to stop thinking, oh, I give this money, I'm the customer, and you're going to have to do this and do this and do this. And you know what? If I don't like it and I have enough money, I'm going to go and tell the director, and he's going to change the coach. Or I'm just going to take my kid, and my kid's going to change the club. And I don't think that's right. I think that's something that we have to fix.
Yeah, unfortunately, the model it's not only in soccer; it's a lot of sports too. I mean, you see it in AAU basketball when you get all the good players in one team, and then the coach get all the good players, and all of a sudden this coach act like it's a great coach. No, you just have all the great players in your team, and then you don't teach him anything, and you winning because you got all those great players. And unfortunately, that's what's happening in the youth sports. It's just like the model is, let's get everybody, all the good players in one team, so we can win. But it's been fun. I enjoyed the conversation tonight. It was great. So next time, I like to dive in more into your product, Billy, so we can have a session just talking about the product to see the benefits of doing it. Because this platform is still also for the kids, so they can be exposed, so they know exactly what's going on. And also, we want to dive into the futsal. Coach is doing a league right now, so maybe next time we all go and then just broadcast Soccer Unfiltered from the league, so we can actually talk to the players, to the coach, and get the perspective on it. So I look forward to doing that. So thank you, guys. It's been fun. Thank you for jumping in. I had a great time. So I hope you guys have a great time, and hopefully that's not your last time in Soccer Unfiltered. So thank you, guys.
Hey,
Have a
thanks,
good night.
Hey,
everybody.
Thanks for having us.
yeah. Care.
Do you live and breathe soccer? Looking for real, unfiltered takes on the world's biggest sport? Welcome to Soccer Unfiltered, the show where we break down the beautiful game without holding back. With your host, Carl Phillip, aka Coach, Dr. Joe, Coach Carlos, and Yonel. We tackle it all, from the rise of youth soccer in the US, to the biggest European leagues, to hot takes on global football news. Our crew has the insights and opinions that no one else dares to share. It's not just a podcast, it's the place where real soccer fans come together. Join us as we take you inside the game, unfiltered and unapologetic. This is Soccer Unfiltered, where the real soccer talk happens.